There it
Yeah,
is.
we're live, my friend. Nice. I feel weird on this side. I'm gonna switch us. I
Okay.
just feel awkward over here. Let's. Oh man, what's up? I can't switch it. Damn it.
I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm a guest on
Maybe.
this one. I don't know.
Okay. Well, it feels very strange. It feels like it's T formation conversation, and I got JB on as my guest on the show today. But it's Bear and Balance, so we're good.
All right. Well, yes, I am in travel mode, as you can tell by the not cool background behind me. I mean, nothing
Well, I
against the
have a
hotel
not cool
background.
background too, so
Yeah, you got. I mean, the clock's ticking, man. And
I'm working. Yeah.
tomorrow's August. You got 1 month left.
I'm gonna have to tell my wife. My wife keeps saying she's gonna do it for me, but something comes up all the time, and it's like, okay, when I'm not, because this I work from here too. 3 days a week I work from this room, so I do my real job from here 3 days a week. So I told her, if you're gonna do the painting, it's I'm not here to Thursday, Friday, and then of course I don't work weekends normally, so those are the days. So
Got 4 out of 7 days to do it.
yeah.
So I'm very excited because I have a little microphone that I bought that attaches to my phone. So it should be better sound quality. So we're testing this out. We're hoping that. It's also a portable mic to take into the field, which was fun. So I did that. I did that today, and I got a little clip with your friend and former coaching colleague Dave Scarborough about quarterback coaches versus quarterback trainers. I thought that was pretty interesting. And we finished that interview, and about 30 seconds later, they started blaring the music. And I forgot about that. I shouldn't have. I forgot about that. And if you have music like that, it's impossible to scrub out of your audio, and like you get in trouble. Like if you have popular music, like there's scrubbers out there that'll pull it stuff. If it's on a podcast or on YouTube, you can get in some trouble. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to do any like talky interviews with people tomorrow when we go back. But that was the point, was to have stuff like that available. I just forgot about they really kind of
music
mess us up with that.
Okay. That was a good interview. You and Dave talked like 4 or 5 minutes. Like, that's my buddy Dave. I've known him since high school. I tell everybody, you wind him up, let him go, man. He will just go and talk about football all day long. He coached for 20 some odd years, the youth to high school level. He used to coach with Glenn Kozlowski, former Chicago Bear. He knows his stuff. It's just fun to talk to him. I've had him on my show a couple times, my T French conversation. I had him on as a guest way, way, way back before I even was doing the show for Vox Media, when it was just my own thing way, way back in the day. So I've had him on my show 4 or 5 times. We've had him on the video channel, I think, once or twice. So it's cool to get his perspective every now and again.
So do you want to do a podcast?
Let's do a podcast.
Okay.
AMP was fun.
Well, we'll talk about that.
Yes.
All right. Welcome to Bear and Balance. I'm Jeff Berckes, a writer for Windy City Gridiron, and I'm joined, as always, by the boss man over at that fine website, Lester A. Wiltfong Jr. Lester, you and I were at Chicago Bears training camp today. How are you feeling after kind of a nice day, a little warm, but certainly not as bad as those folks endured last week?
Yeah, it was brutal last week when I saw how those guys were there in 90-degree heat. Even the players were kind of, had a bit of a ramp down day because it was so rough there. But today was nice. It was a nice little breeze. We were, of course, up on the top of the bleacher, sun beating down on us, but it wasn't bad. I mean, it was, I think, 80, 81 degrees. It wasn't too bad. It was good weather. No rain in the forecast for tomorrow either. So it's going to be fun. It should be a real fun 2 days for us out there.
Yeah, I think that you don't appreciate how useful it is to get there early until you attend a practice that is completely overcrowded.
Yes.
The two sets of bleachers. So this was the first time that we were on the north fields. I think I have my direction correct there. The first time that I have been to a practice that was taking place on the north fields, and they have 2 sets of bleachers, and those were completely filled up. And then they have another set that's a ADA, and then I think like a family section, and then they've got the media like up in the corner, like way over there, right? So there was some interesting stuff that was happening there because some of the media members were in with us and they got booted. They were told to go back to their little section. So that was kind of interesting. So we didn't get a chance to talk to some of the guys I think we would have liked to have talked to. because they got booted by the Bears media people, and we're obviously going as fans. We're non-traditional media, so we have a different rules that we have to follow and things that we can do and not do. We did not post video.
Never. We never post video.
We never post video. And good news is that we did not get falsely accused today for not posting video. So that was good. And yeah, we got there early and we got the back row. And so that's very nice. So like pro tip, if you're going to do this thing, we had the second bus out. So we were one of the first through the line, through security. We went right to our seats, staked them out, and then we just sat there. Like that's where we were. I mean, or stood up, but we kind of staked out those seats, which is really important to get like a good view and to be able to enjoy it. Like, nothing wrong with standing along the rope line, but I think it's a better. You're going to go anyway. Might as well wake up early.
Well, the other fields have, I believe, more bleachers for fans to sit in. I'm not sure how they decide which set of fields they'll be on each camp practice. I assume it's planned out way in ahead. Everything these guys do is very meticulous. They know their whole plan, leading into it. So I'm guessing they knew they'd be there. So it's just like either bring in some more bleachers for that area or don't maybe give away so many tickets. But like you said, it's not bad standing around the roped off area. It's standing alone. You can still see what's going on there. So it's not too bad. At the end of the day, it's it's Bears training camp practice. It's always a good time to go see that.
And before we get into categories, I just want to say up top a couple of observations. One, I love when people wear jerseys from players of the past. It's one of my favorite things to catch out in the wild. This is more like seeing a lion in the zoo versus seeing a lion out in the Serengeti, right? But like it's fun to see like a Marcus Robinson jersey like randomly, but it is still fun to see it at Chicago Bears camp. That's what happens today. Marcus Robinson jersey, Eric Kramer jersey. We saw some Mongo jerseys. It looked like a couple was wearing 76 jerseys, and each one was a home and one was the throwback. So it was really fun to see people wear their jerseys, the different players throughout the decades. I always find that to be really fun. I think my favorite today was Eric Kramer. I feel like that was the most random, because you don't necessarily expect Eric Kramer jerseys to pop up.
Greatest single season passing stats in Bears history, Eric Kramer.
There it is. Yeah, there it is. So if you're coming to camp, and you're coming to camp tomorrow, we will be there again. I will say that I wore the Tevin Jenkins shirt. So for those of you watching, there's the Tev shirt. And we brought a couple along with us. We gave those out. So that's exciting. Tomorrow, if you're going to camp on Tuesday, we will be there again. I'll be wearing a different shirt, and I'll have a couple shirts with me. So
more free shirts?
More free shirts. So find us. And if you're not going to be at camp and you like them, head over to 500 level and use the promo code Gridiron20 for 20% off. So those are a couple things I wanted to mention before we get into categories.
Nice, good stuff. Yeah. Plus, we also have a giveaway at the site, Windy City Gridiron, of course, Twitter, Facebook, all over the place. We're giving away 2 Bears tickets to the Bears versus Titans, a preseason game. So we're giving those away. All the details are on the site. I'm not going to run through them now to bore you guys, but just go to the site. Very easy entry, free entry. Of course, doesn't cost you guys nothing, but there's a chance for you to enter up to 3 times. Go to the site, get those details, and enter for a chance to win Bill Zimmerman's tickets he's giving away. So that's awesome of Bill.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, appreciate Bill doing that. So, all right, well, let's get into the categories. We start this show and every show with a trench tribute. And so what is difficult about early training camp is that they are not wearing pads. And so it is tough to judge linemen when you are watching a practice without pads because they can't really go after each other. But one, we heard that pads are coming on tomorrow, Tuesday. So bonus for you guys that are going to be there with us at practice on Tuesday. But 2, you can tell like who's getting reps where, maybe how guys look versus how they looked last season, maybe more comfortable, that kind of thing. So who stuck out to you in terms of the trenches today?
Yeah, I mean, it was the usual starting 5 was out there. It seemed, I was glad to see Alex Leatherwood, backup offensive lineman. I was glad to see him playing left guard. I thought that would probably be, or playing, was he left guard, right guard?
Yeah, left guard. Yep.
Left guard. So I mean, it's good to see him kind of getting those reps there. He's a guard to me. He seemed like a guard to me. You know, when he was coming out, a lot of people had him pegged that way. He played all over the line for the Raiders. Obviously, was really, really bad as a rookie. He didn't even make the roster. He got cut. Was in the Bears last year. He had the mono situation. But this is a very athletic, very talented young player who just really hasn't had a chance. Like I said, it's his position moved around a lot as a rookie. He had the mono diagnosis last year. He kind of really sapped a lot of his strength and held him out there. We have not really seen what Alex Leatherwood could do. So I think the Bears are pretty smart. If they are going to let him just slot in at guard, and hey, you're a guard now, only worry about this position. I think that's the best thing for moving forward. So, you know, him, and then of course Larry Borum was playing some tackle there, and then with the backups, I think Borum's going to be fine. If he's your top reserve tackle off the bench, I think that's okay for you, because your starting five on paper looks much better than what the Bears had a year ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was interesting to see Leatherwood. I mean, that was a bit of a gamble, right? They were the only ones to make the claim. They take on that contract, right? They own that first round draft pick money contract, so it's not like he hit free agency and then he signed for a smaller deal. The Bears are still paying him first round draft pick money, so interesting there. And like you said, let him learn, stick him in that position, see if he works out there. If you got a guy that can play, come in and be your top interior backup, immediately, that's great. Maybe he comes in and is groomed to replace somebody if needed, if they go down, what have you. I want to say Darnell Wright, because not because of anything he did today. Again, it's walkthroughs not walkthroughs, but it's practice without pads. But I was just impressed with how he looked physically. He looked like he had slimmed down even from the draft. We talked a little bit about in the media how he has lost somewhere in between like 15 pounds. I think it shows. I think he looks like he is ready to step in and be a little bit more fleet of foot, which is important. Hopefully, he's not sacrificing what makes him a great pass blocker. But I think because of just how big he is anyway, like he's got such a wide frame, and I think he wins with that frame pretty regularly. I'm not too worried about that, but I do think he's going to be able to move a little better, which is what the Bears asked of him. There was that quote that was around late last week about how he must have read something wrong, and so he was preparing for the fitness test for the wide receiver group. So he was ready to take a wide receiver fitness test and not the offensive lineman fitness test. And I had to ask you, have you, as a former offensive lineman, ever made the mistake of thinking that you could pass the wide receiver fitness test?
Yeah, I was always a bare minimum kind of guy when it comes to those tests. I'm like, I'm not doing anything extra. If I knew as a lineman I had to do this, that's what I had to do was this. I'm not going above and beyond. But man, kudos to Wright. I mean, he owned it. He read it wrong, but at the end of the day, it helped him out. I mean, he crushed the test for the old lineman. He got himself in much better shape. You know, moving forward, who knows? But real quick on Wright, I saw some tweets earlier. Again, we're at practice, we're trying to watch everything. It's hard to see. I saw some tweets earlier saying that Wright got beat pretty bad on a few sacks, but like you talked about at the top, man, there's no pads on. You know, for the most part, this is a glorified walkthrough. Yeah, they're supposed to be going, pretty close to full speed, but again, there's no pads. They're only doing so much out there. You know, it's hard to tell what they're supposed to do. Plus, they're working on different things, different technique. Who knows if maybe a certain rep he's working on a different set, or if the D lineman is working on something different, or just it's all about what they're doing. There's no scouting reports, for these guys. They're just out there trying to work on some new stuff as camp's going on. So if you see these tweets, oh, Darnell Wright got beat for a sack by Walker in practice, it's practice. Let's not get too concerned over what's going on here.
Yeah, it's a good point. And again, without pads, it sort of doesn't matter with the line. So I wouldn't worry about it too much anyway. But like you said, it's like again, those of you that watch baseball, you get a major league pitcher and they're down at the triple A, and they get beat up in triple A. And people are like, I don't know, he got knocked around in that rehab appearance. And then he comes up and he pitches really good to major leaguers. And you're like, are triple A ball players like better than major leaguers? And it's like, well, no, they're not really pitching. They're trying to they're working on their fastball. They're making sure they get their velocity right. They're spotting. They're not really scouting these guys and trying to get them out. They're more just working on themselves. They're very focused on themselves. That happens in pro fat practice too, right? They're working on things that may not make sense to us when we see because we don't have all of the information. So something definitely to keep in mind.
So on defense, they didn't really. Again, it's hard to really evaluate the trenches at the setting, but I did like seeing Javon Dexter. He did look every bit the physical, athletic specimen that everyone said he was. Just looks good. He looks pretty quick off the snap. That was a big concern. Leading up to the draft, everyone said, "Oh, he's slow off the snap," and of course, that was debunked kind of with the scheme he played there. And so far during the OTAs, during the mini camp, and now during training camp, we have heard nothing about his get off. I think he's fine there. So, and then I didn't catch the press conferences afterwards on my way home. I couldn't find them online. I was trying to listen to him in the car, but apparently there were some Bears veteran teammates praising the day that Dexter did have today. So, he's coming into his own, and he's going to be a guy as a second round draft pick. The Bears are going to count highly on him this season.
Yeah, exciting young player, in my opinion. One of those guys that I think may have been a steal because of the coaching decisions late in his college career allowed him to drop down a little bit. There's plenty of football to be played for him to prove Ryan Poles right, but early on, like at the moment when you started to dig into it, you're like, there may have been some interesting value there. What about? Oh, let's move on to another category before I keep spoiling things.
Are we doing with our normal categories there?
No, we don't have to. We can just kind of open it up a little bit. Let me ask you this question. Who were you interested in or surprised in that was getting some first team reps pretty early, particularly the young guys?
That's a good thing. The one thing I noticed early, we heard a little bit about the Bears or the beat guys are talking about him, and that's rookie cornerback. And I want to make sure I get the first name right because there's a couple Smiths on the roster. Terrell Smith out of Minnesota. He was running with the ones. We heard a little bit of stuff, him getting some safety reps, but now today he was out there with the ones alongside with Jalen Johnson at corner. I'm not sure if that's so much a knock on Stevenson, the second round rookie, as it was to just Smith is having a good camp so far. So they're going to reward him. And it's not like Stevenson did bad. I think Stevenson had a pick today too in one of the team drills, but the fact that they're letting the fifth rounder get out there and compete for starter reps, right off the bat. I mean, that shows you the confidence they have in him, and that shows you the kind of his ability he had. I know when we had a chance to talk to EJ, he was at East West Shrine game. He kind of talked about Smith as an up and comer. He had a great East West Shrine game there. He kind of a late bloomer in college, so maybe he's just peaking at the right time for his career.
Yeah, there was a couple of interesting examples of the picks after Darnell Wright, right, during the draft, and where you'd have production early and then maybe a rough senior year last year, like Sewell, who we can talk about in a minute, or Dexter, right, where what the heck was going on there, or the reverse, right, where you had the late bloomer where maybe didn't look very good and then kind of figured it out there at the end. I've just found it interesting that he was doing that, but I want to mention that you pointed out that it appeared to us that they were flipping the corners quite a bit.
Yeah.
And Jalen Johnson was moving, and we kind of had a conversation what that could mean, and you and I sort of both came to the conclusion that to us it was most likely saying they want Jalen to travel because they may want him to be traveling with the better wide receiver or the bigger wide receiver or the faster wide receiver, whichever way you want to kind of game plan it out, depending on who you're playing against, as opposed to just saying like, you're the left corner and this is where you stay. And so I think that's interesting and that's good. And, all of the good comments that we've heard from Jalen Johnson in the media about being interested in another contract and knowing that he's not, at the like elite level, and he still has to put in some ball production to be able to get there. I'm pretty confident that what we're seeing is someone who's going to be a building block of this defense for years to come.
Yeah, right now it looks like besides Jalen Johnson, your starting corner on the other side is going to either be, Terrell Smith or Tyree Stevenson, a rookie. So if you're the Bears, you want to make sure you're covered just in case, because rookie corners always struggle. It happens all the time. It doesn't matter if you're a first round pick or a fifth round pick, you're going to struggle in the NFL. So if the Bears are comfortable letting Jalen Johnson travel, and we saw him travel a little bit last year with a guy like one of the top receivers, a Brown or Adams, one of these guys he has to match up against. I don't want a rookie on those guys. So if you're comfortable letting Johnson travel, the rookie has the other guy, and then of course you have Kyler Gordon at nickel. I think that just helps your defense all around. And I'm with you, man. I think they're going to re-sign Jalen Johnson. I think he's the next contract coming here. I know that he doesn't have the takeaways, which is a big part of the hits philosophy, but he's around the ball. It's not like he's shies from contact. He's working on it. Just hasn't happened. So I think we're going to see him kind of, he'll get some picks this year, get some forced fumbles this year, and I think at some point, whether it's earlier or later, I think they're going to re-sign him.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point. You're likely to play a rookie at one of those spots, and so you're going to want to try to manage that as much as possible, which honestly gives a little bit more leverage to Jalen Johnson. But
Yeah,
it's maybe one of those things where you sign him if you're Ryan Poles, give him that paper, get him in, figure it out, make him happy, and then let's really show what his value is, because I think he's a really good football player, and I'm excited about what his 2023 can look like. Anybody else kind of stick out to you? I mean, like I said, we maybe talk about Sewell, the rookie linebacker.
yeah,
Looked like he was the direct backup to Jack Sanborn in traditionally called base set at the Sam linebacker. And then when they went to the second team, it looked like he would come in and Sanborn would slide over to be the backup Mike.
yeah, that's what it seemed like.
So,
yeah, I mean, with Sewell, he's been getting the first team reps quite a bit during the offseason because, of course, with Sanborn, he's recovering from the injury. He has got the green light. He's 100%. He's good to go. But the Bears are going to be smart with him and with Darnell Mooney. They're not putting him out there, full speed. They're going to kind of ramp them up slowly to make sure they're ready to go for week one. But with Sanborn out, Sewell's getting some reps, and he looks like a good football player out there. He's going to get plenty of time on special teams, obviously. If Sanborn isn't ready to go week one, which, they say he will, but if for some reason there's a setback, I think they're comfortable, putting the rookie Sewell out there.
Yeah. And then I want to flip to the other side of the ball. Again, kind of open session, just shooting thoughts out here. But other side of the ball, I want to talk about wide receivers and just the connections that were happening today with them. It sure looked like there were some good contested catches for Chase Claypool, a lot of stuff that was some drag routes, some stuff that kind of get the ball in his hands and let him work, which I think is a very good thing for an athlete like Chase Claypool. But he came down with some pretty good contested catches, right? Like he looked pretty good today. So I wanted to give some Chase Claypool love out there, right? That he's had quite the offseason in terms of Bears Twitter and all that being a little down on him. So I thought that he looked pretty good. And then, some DJ Moore stuff early. We didn't get to see quite the DJ Moore fireworks that we maybe hope for. A little bit of Darnell Mooney, not much. And then, just some of the other also rans, had some plays too. But in general, it looked like there were maybe more plays made by the defense today.
Yeah, I think if you're going to give a win, this is the defense's day. I mean, early on during the team stuff, it seemed like Justin Fields had nowhere to go with the ball. PJ Walker had nowhere to go with the ball. He was holding it a lot. Again, it's just team stuff. It's practice, so they're not going to try and do certain things. If it was a game situation, they may scramble at those points in the game. But he had nowhere to go with the ball early on, and he was just doing a lot of check down stuff, which I honestly don't mind. I don't mind the quarterbacks getting in the mentality of, if it's not their check down. We kind of saw that in the 2-minute drill portion later in practice. We kind of saw it during the others, the stuff on 7-on-7, a lot of short game stuff being worked there. And I think that's important. I mean, it's the NFL. I mean, you're not always going to take the deep shot. It's not always going to be there. So the fact that, they're kind of being cognizant of working the whole field, I think that bodes well for Justin Fields and where this offense is going to take off in the next season.
Yeah, and I'll also put it into context. About half the day was install. And I think that people don't realize, I mean, you're watching practice. And
very boring, slow.
And if you haven't been through that, like if you don't really know what that is, if you haven't played or coached or whatever, or haven't been to these practices and observed this, like they're putting in plays. And so they're not really going live, right? They're not like, again, there's no pads, but like they're really not scrimmaging. They are, in half the time they're just putting things in to show like, okay, this is you're here. This is what it looks like. Slow down, deliver the ball. I mean, there were plays where, the quarterback would take 7 seconds before he threw the ball because the wide receiver is jogging his route very slowly. He's not running it. So again, that's about half the practice. They're installing plays. That's fine, and then you maybe see it later. And then when you install a play and then you run it later, the defense is not dumb. They know that you just installed those plays, and then they see it again, right? And so sometimes they're going to be able to run the route for you, right? So there's a little bit of that goes on in practice too that you have to make sure that you're keeping in mind.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's like I said, the defensive players have seen a lot of these plays, and that's one thing the Bears offense was doing today. Is early on, you mentioned a lot of the install stuff. We saw them run the same play like 2 or 3 times in a row out of different formations, different looks. A lot of the stuff is they're going slower, is because it's not about as always the offensive line. Sometimes it's the splits of the receivers, the landmarks where the X receiver lines up on this formation. If they're on the right hash, then you have to line up in a certain spot. So a lot of it is they want to know where everyone's lined up. They have to know exactly what their steps are to get where they're going to line up there. Whether it's the wing, like if Robert Tunyon is flexed off, okay, are you flexed off a man or 2 man outside? It's all about blocking angles with a lot of the stuff. So they're just going through the walkthrough. It's like the rehearsal. If you're trying to get their steps correct, to know what they're going to do, to know what happens when the play actually goes live. And then, like I said, later on, oh, here comes that play they just did earlier today. Here it is. And of course, the defense knows what's happening. I hated that when I used to play back in the day, because they knew it was coming. So I would always try and say something when I was up there. Oh no, it's going to be this play. I'd try and be a little tricky to the guy in front of me. Oh, it's not this play. It looks like it now. We're going to run over there, and then of course, I'd catch him, and I have a great block and walk through. So, but it's all part of the game they play, man. They're trying to get all this stuff in right, and at the end of the day, it's all the Bears. So it's like, if the defense looks good, the offense looks good. That's good. We want to see everybody have their moment to shine.
Offensive linemen are just smarter than defensive linemen. That's basically the moral of that story.
Yeah.
The last thing I'll mention, and I'm having a little fun here, but older gentleman and his son sitting next to me. Older gentleman, one of those Bears fans.
Fired up, man.
Just everything's bad. Everything is negative, and almost to the point where waiting for something bad to happen and then be like, see, I told you so, right? Like, they can't help but hear him and listen to him. And he just sort of kept just being super negative. And at one point I turned on and I go, hey man, it's July. Like, you don't get to be pessimistic yet. You have to wait until September, until the games are live, and then something bad happens. And then you can go into this, but and then he started to protest, like, well, I've been a Bears fan for X number of years. And I'm like, I actually don't care. Like, honestly, like, I get it. We all have scar tissue. We've all been there. We've built that up. But that's not really the point of the season where we're at, right? Like, everybody's 0-0 right now.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of really good things that are happening. But I thought that was funny, because it's that sort of common, particularly in a lot of fans that I meet that are a little older. Okay. And then to counteract that, there were, dozens and dozens of young kids that had a Justin Fields jersey on, almost only Justin Fields. And they all had like a helmet or a football or a picture or something that they clearly wanted Justin Fields to autograph. They're so excited. There were some young kids wearing number 1 jerseys that I think they stood on the rail of the bleachers the whole practice. Or most of the practice. Right? And these kids couldn't have been more than 10 years old, right? Like, I'm not good with kids' ages by just looking at their height or anything, but they're not that old, right? But they were so into it, they were so excited, maybe 8 years old or something like that. And so there's a lot of really legitimate excitement, but there's also this like old scar tissue that is just preventing people from allowing themselves to believe. And I think everywhere in between, depending on where you're at and what your outlook on life is. So it was kind of interesting to see that dichotomy at play. It's always good to remind yourself where the people are. So that was my final observation that I wanted to share from today.
Yeah, I was hearing you talking to that gentleman, and I did hear you mention the scar tissue thing. And that's true, though, man. Bears fans, we've had it. It's one of the premier franchise in the NFL. Obviously, it's one of the oldest franchise in the NFL, but it's been a long time, man. I think as Bears fans, we're really due, and we kind of had the discussion in the bleachers. if this Bears team is good, if Justin Fields is the guy, he is going to be at that Michael Jordan level of just, popularity in the city of Chicago, because A, it's a football town, and B, football's the national pastime these days. It's no longer baseball. It's football, man. Everyone is a football fan. The ratings are king in football. So if you're the guy, if you're the man in Chicago, forget about it. Justin Fields, skyrocketing potential there from a marketing standpoint, and then just the overall face of the league if the Bears get this right here.
Yeah, absolutely. The amount of money that Justin Fields can make in his life is going to be astronomical, because not only is it going to be a giant contract like we just saw, like Justin Herbert sign, Joe Burrow's probably about to sign, we've seen Patrick Mahomes sign. If he shows that he's that level of quarterback, I mean, even Jalen Hurts, right? If he's proving that he's that level of quarterback, which I think he can do this year, giant contract on the horizon, and also city of Chicago, every business is going to try to throw money at him, plus national brands, because he's in Chicago, because it's such a big market, because it's such a great fan base. And so there's a huge potential there. But of course, just like, bring us the championship, man. Like, I'm desperate. Like, just want one. And then I'm sure if we get one, I'll want another. But like right now, I just want one, man.
So we're kind of bouncing around today. Let's talk a little about the running backs. Khalil Herbert, Deonta Foreman. The knock on them throughout their career was, they're not able to be used in the passing game. So of course, the big part of that is pass blocking, which again, no pads on. It's hard to see that, but as pass catchers, both Herbert and Foreman were involved today, catching the ball out of the backfield. We saw it in the 7-on-7 and the 11-on-11 as well. There were check down options. They were doing the stuff where they would kind of do the check release, where they would kind of, pass block for a second, then go through the line and curl up for just the quick outlet for the quarterback there. So we kind of saw, both of them involved in the passing game. And if they can both be viable, in the passing game, now the Bears aren't tipping their hand, so to speak. And if they can both prove viable as pass blockers, now it really helps out, because now, defenses will have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, I saw a lot of Herbert, a lot of Juice Herbert today in the passing game, which was great. It's a little bit of Foreman, right? Maybe not as much run on that. He was definitely running a lot of the stretch runs that they were installing. And then I didn't see much of Roshan. I may have just missed him, but I did not see a lot of him. I did see some Travis Homer, particularly in the passing game, which is not particularly surprising, because if he's able to make this roster, that is why he will make the roster. And so that was good to see. He's a nice little player. So it's fun to see him. No one else really stuck out. I think that Travis Ebner is a long shot to stay on the active roster. I would not be surprised if he's either try to hide him on the practice squad, or if he's going to be trying to find work later. I'm not just adding so much to the running back room from last year, and then just talent level, and then how he just wasn't able to show out last year. I think that he's a long shot to be able to stick around.
He just seems like the odd man out. They signed, Foreman. They signed Travis Homer. They drafted Roshan Johnson. You're not going to carry 5 backs. I think Treston Ebner for sure is going to be gone. But, it's, again, a lot of times, these players year 1 to year 2 really make a jump. So if Ebner showed enough where the Bears feel they're comfortable with him, within his playbook and knowing what he's supposed to do, I think he comes back to the practice squad. So you want to bounce over to probably the star of the defensive camp today, I'm not even trying to pronounce his name. Braylon Trahan is my guess here. Undrafted free agents. 2 picks today. He's kind of was all over the place, and there's always a guy. Every camp there's someone that like, oh my God, where'd this guy come from? So this was his day today, and I already saw stuff on social media. Oh my God, this guy's going to get a bunch of reps moving forward. This guy should push for a starting role. He picked. He's still like the last guy on the depth chart, but no, it's good for him to show out and have his moment in the sun today.
So absolutely, he had the first pick. I believe that was off of Walker, and it was. From what I saw, again, I don't get to see replay or anything, but I did see him sort of ball hawk it, like he crashed in there, flashed in front of the wide receiver. Walker was a little late And I think he was kind of waiting for something to develop, and he read it, and he flashed in front and got a pick, came down with it, and I tweeted it out because I was like, this guy might never get another pick in a like this is a big deal. Let's throw him out there, right? And then the number 1-0 was going against the number 2D on a little 2-minute drill thing, and I think you made a good point. Like I think it was you got to go for the touchdown. Like this is the situation is you got to throw this deep. So in a vacuum, not a good decision by Justin Fields. That wide receiver was bracketed.
Double coverage deep.
Corner was taking trail technique, so he was in front of the wide receiver, and then he had the free safety back. That was what's his name?
Trahan.
Trahan was behind him. Fields put the ball in a pretty good space. I know it got picked, so it wasn't a good spot, but a pretty good space where I think a play may have been able to be made on the ball. And if it was a game situation, I would imagine the wide receiver would have went for it a little bit more than he did, but went a little far, and then he was able to make the play as the free safety. Came down with both, though. There's a lot of guys that get those situations, and they drop the ball. So good for him. He has a shared number. Generally, when you share a number with another player, you are not in a position to make big plays like that. So good for him. This was a big day for him.
Number 45 on your defensive scorecard if you guys go out there tomorrow.
Not the offensive. There's 45 on offense too.
Yeah, I think there were 3 picks today. I think the rookie Tyree Stevens had another one in one of the I think it might have been 7-on-7. But overall, like we said, man, defense had this one. I know we've had a lot of hype over the offense the last few days, but it was good to see the defense kind of come out there and kind of put their foot down and stop things. And like I said, it's the stuff early, man. There was just nowhere to go with the ball. So that kind of tells you that the defensive guys, and it's a fairly new unit back there playing zone coverage, of course, with Edwards, with Edmonds, with Sewell if he's in there with the ones, whoever it is, it's a pretty new unit. So getting those zones, we talk about how the offense has to know where they're supposed to line up. The defense has to know how far their zone drops are. They have to know where they are in relation to the guy next to them. Okay, if you have the hook, you have to know what you're going to do on the other side, and it depends what if they're taking the guy and they're trailing them back, before they pass them off to the next zone. So, learning where these holes are in the zone, learning how to close them up. Then, of course, you got a guy like Edmonds, who, I commented to you, man, he's huge. He is a gigantic man. So having him in the middle of your defense, in this, of course, not just the size, but he's got great speed, great football IQ. This guy has got, he can be that dude for the Bears on defense.
Yeah, probably the first. I mean, a lot of these guys are incredibly impressive physically. They're professional football players. Not a shock there, but it reminded me of seeing Mac for the first time. And a different look athlete, right? Mac's a little broader, but you're like, oh, okay, yeah. There's a modern linebacker. Holy crap, very very impressive. But your point. People are really down on the defense, right? No one's talking up this defense. No one's talking up the defense overall because the defensive line is not packed with high draft picks or high pedigree guys, right? You're a little worried about the pass rush. The back 7 could be really good. It could be really interesting. Now, you may not get to see it all the time if there's not a pass rush, but these guys are either proven, experienced, and good at their jobs, like Eddie Jackson and Tremaine Edmonds, or these guys are younger guys that are on the swing, guys that we're excited about, like Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, I think showed out quite a bit last year in moments, and then had maybe a little bit of rough stretch. But you think a secondary guy with that much talent in his second year, you're excited about that. So, if they shut down the wide receivers in a practice. I don't think that's a shocker.
No, it was good. They had a nice day overall. Another one I want to mention, because I didn't hear much about him this whole camp thus far. That's Josh Blackwell, who was an undrafted free agent last year. Got a lot of playing time because the Bears had so many issues and so many injuries. But it looked like he was backing up at the nickel for Kyler Gordon. So, there's some guys here who got a lot of playing time last year who are now being forced down the depth chart because the Bears have upgraded at a few spots. But that playing time they got last year didn't help these guys. So that's good for a guy like Josh Blackwell shows that he's definitely he's worthy of getting some reps every now and again. Maybe the Bears throw him out there on occasion.
Yeah, like you say, those reps are invaluable to know who's going to be part of your team going forward, even if they're in a backup role, because you never know when those guys will be pressed into service. So,
what about Trenton Gill? Was Trenton Gill booming the ball today?
I gotta tell you, man, my guy, the guillotine.
Yeah.
There was some punts going on while something else was happening, which is one of those things in practice that it can jar you a little bit, right? Like, where do you put your eyes? Because at one point I didn't know where the punts were coming from.
Yeah.
Because he was lined up behind this other drill that was happening, and then he's booting the ball down inside the 5 where these guys, and I thought there was just a jugs machine that was punting the ball, because the first one I saw was a perfect spiral, and it just took like this nosedive right down at like the 2-yard line. And it bounced out like it was coffin corner. Like it was kind of this amazing punt. And then you're like, no, it's Gill. And I was like, oh, he's all the way over there. Yeah, he was just throwing daggers, man. Like, I mean, he was just dropping them all inside the 5. I know no one gets excited about punting, but
we do.
But we do.
Right on brand for us. Yeah.
Right. And so I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, he was. You could definitely see that he's. I mean, I don't know if he's gotten more power over the offseason or anything like that, but he seems dialed in, and I'd be interested to see if he can be more of a weapon to this team. A lot of the advanced metrics for punting last year, which, yes, I did look into, had him as sort of a league average punter in a lot of ways. But as a rookie, like, you take that and you hope that maybe he can improve some of those things. The biggest leg isn't always the best leg. That's you can outkick your coverage. I think people have heard that before, or you can outkick and you can have a lot of touchbacks, and that doesn't really do much for you either. If you can place it inside the 10 or inside the 5, even better. So I'm curious to see if he's able to take a step and maybe be one of the better punters in the league this year.
Let's talk a little bit about, since we're on special teams, talk a little bit about what we saw from the return game. They wasn't doing nothing live, obviously, but I did notice that Tyler Scott, the rookie receiver, he looked very natural, catching the punts and the kicks. Aaron Cruikshanks, another guy that looks very natural back there. Bayless Jones Jr., when he was feeling some of the punts, he had one that he kind of misjudged. It was one that a really nice deep kick, so he kind of got caught between fielding or not. Maybe he was letting it go. Maybe it was working on letting it go or not. I don't know what he was doing there. It looked like he misjudged it. As the day went on and as he kind of caught more punts, Bayless Jones felt a little more natural. Maybe he just had to warm up a bit, but as far as just pure, instincts of the ball coming in, I thought Tyler Scott looked like he was able to kind of, do that job if he had to be called on to do it right now.
Yeah, and that may be his best path to try to get on the field early, right? It's just try to get in the special teams. We've heard a little bit about his hands in the passing game. I didn't see a lot of targets for him necessarily today to see how he caught the ball. But that may be his path for immediacy now, where you have what we think we know is going to be a pretty established pecking order of 1, 2, 3 in the passing offense for wide receivers. And then you got Cole Kmet, of course, and maybe Juice Herbert getting some play in the passing game too. So if you're really excited about Tyler Scott, maybe on special teams early.
Seemed that way. Like you said, we did hear some stuff about the dropsies, but I didn't see many drops today. I mean, like I said, the defense won the day, but I didn't really see too many miscues on the receivers' point of things. But overall, man, another fun day of practice, and we will be both out there again tomorrow morning. Like we said, pads are going to be on, so with any luck, we'll be at a better vantage point to kind of watch some of those one-on-one, O-line versus D-line battles. Because once the pads come on, that's for us. That's the highlight of the show. We want to see those one-on-one drills. Hopefully, we're close enough to see those tomorrow.
I mean, I think it's back in Bourbonnais. I'd have to go back to Bourbonnais to the last time we were at a practice that had pads on, and so I'm excited to see that, because last year we went to the first few practices. I went to 3, you went to 2, and it was all shells. I mean, it was all just jerseys and helmets. So, I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to hear some popping. And for those of you that didn't play football, there's something about the first day of pads. There's like a lot of extra something in the air. Like there's excitement. There's maybe a little nervousness, right? I mean, these guys are professionals, so they probably don't have that. But there's just a little bit more because you haven't hit each other anything in a long time, and so there's just this added element. So I'm really excited to see what that looks like for the Chicago Bears team. That again, there's something building here. You can feel it, and so I'm excited to see what that looks like as the real stuff starts. Real stuff starts tomorrow.
Starts tomorrow. Hey, do you want to run through a few Q&A from the comments, or do you want to cut the pod and do that for a video exclusive? We're like 40 some odd
Yeah,
minutes.
why don't we cut the pod and
cut
then
the pod.
We'll stick around for some Q&A. So
that's for the people that are listening on the podcast. We also record this, via Second City Gridiron. So make sure you guys, if you miss out on that Q&A portion, jump in to the video, kind of check that out. That's like a little bone we'll throw for our video guys over there. So
and we're a little bit more relaxed. A little bit more relaxed than the Q&A.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So check out tomorrow. We'll do this. We'll do it a little later because I have to drive back home. So I will not be in my hotel room. So that's a good thing, but it will take me a while to get back home after practice. So we'll be back tomorrow night for Tuesday camp review. But until then, thanks for joining us. Bear down.
Nice. Are you getting the timestamp there? I'm terrible.
I've got an idea.
Like
what else am I doing?
Like if I'm steering, man, I can't keep the timestamp. It's
like 45:23 is
45-ish. We'll figure it out. We forgot to take a break too, so we'll slap it in there. So let's run through some of these.
You didn't bring up I need the cue. I just run through and I need the cue.
I know. It's like I said, when I have to do when I'm on this side of the screen, it's like
all hell breaks loose.
So much stress here. So here we go. We got Deonta Foreman took most of the RB1 reps today. How do you look? Again, no pads on, but they seem like they work in the inside zone quite a bit with him. He is when they signed him, I was excited because he was on my fantasy team last year.
Football player. Yeah.
So I knew what he meant to the Panthers down the stretch. A ton of yards, ton of touches. He got a lot of the touches on the runs they did there. So if he's viable, like we said, if he's viable in the passing game, if he can catch the ball, if he can pass block, because he hasn't been a very good pass blocker either. I know Bears fans, we look at Khalil Herbert, he sucks as a pass blocker. That's how teams that have rooted for Foreman throughout his career have kind of felt the same way. He just doesn't have a lot of reps like that. So
it seems weird too because he looks a little bit stouter.
Right.
So you think that he could stick his nose in there. Like Herbert's a little smaller. I mean, but he should be able to get that too. But one of them's got to emerge to be able to do that. Again, they're installing. Again, it's without pads. And they're installing running. They ran, I don't know, outside stretch, whatever you call that, like 6 times in a row. I mean, so that, they know what they're doing. That it's coming. But I think he's interesting. But you'll never. I mean, I'm Khalil Herbert fan number 1. So there is that, but I was really excited with Foreman because it seemed to me like, wow, we got 2 real legitimate guys. And then you draft a guy like Roschon Johnson. You're like, oh, geez, man, this running back group is fun. We're kind of going back to smash mouth football a little bit.
It's old school here. Adam, the sweet dulcet tones of JB back on Second City Gridiron.
I know it's been a while. I've had kind of a rough go. Very busy spring and early summer, and then we lost our very important cat companion around the July 4th holiday, and pet grief for any of you that have gone through it. It's really tough. It was my first time experiencing that. 14 years with her, and it was really hard. I wanted to crank some stuff up over the summer, but I found myself needing to deal with that. So this is, I figured camp would be a good time to get back on it, but I appreciate that, Adam. It's very nice.
Sometimes life just gets in the way. So
life gets in the way.
It happens. So here you go, Chris Armstrong. Where's Kendall Vildor?
I don't think I saw him.
I mean, if he was out there, I didn't see him do anything. I mean, I'm assuming he's in the mix for a backup corner spot, but I didn't see him running with the 1s. I really didn't notice him at the time of the 2s. I'm going to have to go back and check Twitter to see if maybe he had a day off, maybe something happened there, but I didn't see him at all.
The hard part is when we're at camp, we're trying to talk to each other and say, did you see this? What did you see there? And then we're trying to let you guys know what we see. So we're on Twitter and we're putting out tweets. maybe we get a picture in, maybe we don't, but we try to
No
get that
videos
out.
though.
No videos. And then what happens a lot of times is when Fields stops taking a rep and they switch into the second team, and it's PJ Walker or it's somebody else, Peterman or whatever, you sort of work on the tweet.
Yeah.
And so you do miss some stuff, right? We're not just watching the whole time because we want to be able to share with you guys what we're seeing in real time. And so there's plenty of plays that I did not see. So I will be honest, he may have been out there, but I did not. He didn't gain my attention.
I didn't see him much. I have very giant awkward thumbs, and my typing game is bad. My daughter always makes fun of me. They always says I type too slow with it. So it's not that I'm typing slow. It's that I'm hitting the wrong friggin' letters because my thumb is too damn big. So like you said, we don't catch everything, but we try and catch what we can, especially when they're at camp, because I know that's what everyone wants to see here. So we have Thomas here asking about Yannick Ngakoue. Why can't the Bears sign him? Makes too much sense. Give him 3 years in exchange for a lower AV. Let's get to work. That's the rumor, right? I mean, he still hasn't signed. Obviously the Vikings just re-signed Daniel Hunter he's in their camp now. That was another rumor the Bears were going to be after him, but I think that was more of a pipe dream from Bears fans just wanting to see him. That was never going to happen, and I don't see him ever coming to Chicago. I can't see him even next year because next year he'll be 30. And I just don't think the Bears want to sign a guy like that unless they think, hey, this is our year. Maybe they make a big splash, but a guy like Ngakoue, I'd rather go with Justin Houston myself. I think he's a little bit of a better of a pass rusher. I think if you are going to sign a veteran kind of guy that comes in, I think you just want him for a year. Like I don't want to sign a guy for 3 years because he's a one-trick pony. I mean, if you're going to sign a guy, bring in a guy, Houston, let him do his thing, and then next year make your splash in a guy that's better, or get your guy in the draft. But what's your thoughts on free agent Ngakoue?
I think that the thing about Ngakoue is that he's known to be a pretty big liability in run defense.
Yeah.
And so he's a guy that you're just going to have scream off the edge. And I think that Ryan Poles said a couple months ago, like, hey, basically like, yeah, I get it. They have to want to sign here though.
Yeah.
And when he said that, that's very clear that they had approached some of these guys. And so a guy like Ngakoue, so I would assume a guy at that stage in his career is trying to balance two things. One is I want to play for a contender to get a ring, or play for a contender so that I can showcase myself to get another contract if I need to take a 1-year deal again, or I need to cash in, right? And right, like ideally they could get big money from a contender. Like I'm sure that's the dream. A lot of those contenders don't have that kind of money, right? So a lot of those contenders would love Yannick Ngakoue to come play for them for the league minimum and chase the ring, right? And if that's all you cared about, then why don't more people do that? Well, they want to get paid. They want to get paid what they're worth, right? And so they have to kind of bring this balance in. And if they think like, well, the Bears aren't going to be, a hot team, they're not going to be on prime time. No one's going to really see me. So, if the defense is bad and I don't put up the numbers, then I'm out of the league, right? So if that's going to happen, I need more money to go there, or I need to get that. So there's kind of this balance, but the Bears aren't really in a position to give him 3 years for sure. They're really not in a position to give him 2 years, even two. I think they want a 1-year mercenary deal with a guy like this if they're going to do it, because they're going to go in next year for a guy that's more balanced player that maybe fits their rebuild, to say like you're going to be a core piece, and they're probably going to go in the draft to try to get a guy like that. So I'm not as big on Ngakoue as a lot of people, but if they bring him in, it's because they want some pass rush juice. And he probably won't play the percentage of snaps that you might expect a name brand like Yannick Ngakoue to play, but I think it'll be selective and trying to get pass rush juice out of him.
I think an edge is coming. I mean, I think at some point they got to sign a guy.
Yeah.
It just seems that way. I mean, they've talked. If they didn't talk about it so much openly, then of course I'd be like, who knows? But the fact that they're out there saying it so much, or talking about it so much, or being asked about it so much, and they're not shooting down oh no, we're not.
Right.
They say if something's there, will go. They've mentioned trade, they mentioned free agents, like you said, they mentioned it's a two-way street. The guy has to want to sign. So I think something's going to happen at some point. But again, we're still in the early part of training camp. Some of these guys may not be in a rush. A guy like Justin Houston, who's 33, 34 years old, he's like, look, I'm a pro. I keep myself in great shape. I can roll off the street and chase the quarterback. I'm not worried about signing quite yet. So I
Yep.
think something's coming. But if it doesn't happen, you can't address everything in one offseason. Maybe the Bears are content rolling with some of the young guys they got. Let Dominic Robinson kind of flourish. DeAnthony Jones is an undrafted free agent. Kind of had a nice early part of training camp. Maybe they like what they got. Who knows?
Yeah, sometimes you fall in love with your own guys, right?
Yeah, the notorious TBG talked about negative Nancy's earlier. Like I just look at it like this: like we try and stay balanced. I don't get too high, too low. But of course I want to be up here. I want to be excited, be fired up about my favorite team. You know, even when I know the team's going to be bad, like last year, I still was looking forward to the season because I was exciting for other reasons. Justin Fields' development, the new regime. How will this first year of the rebuild go? I had reasons to be positive, but I just never understood being so angry and so negative as a fan before they play a game. It's like, why would I spend the next 2 months being pissed off at my favorite team? Then this is the way I look at it. Then if they're good week one, I wasted 2 months being a sourpuss for no reason. Why was I such a jackass for 2 months when they're good? So if they suck, I could be pissed about it when they suck.
We spent so much time trying to say in every way possible that this team was going to be bad in 2022. Like we tried to say, look, guys, don't listen to the people that are trying to convince you that this team could compete because they can't. Like because the general manager was telling you what that team was going to do based on his actions, right? Like it was a gap year, whatever you want to call it. And so we tried to manage expectations on this show and other shows because we could see it and we knew what was going to happen. But like that was last year. This year's offseason is building around Justin Fields, and there was some investments made. And sure, not everything's fixed. And sure, there are a lot of question marks, but that's the fun stuff, right? Yeah. You're on the upswing now. You're out of the trough. So if you can't get yourself out of the trough on July 31st, like, come on, man. I got to tell you, how do I drag you out? I called him out. Like, and there were like 10 people that were kind of looking back at us and kind of, I was like, no, man, you can't do this on July 31st. Get out of here, man. So anyway, it was whatever. It's funny.
It's good stuff. Billy Eastman wants to know how the defensive ends looked. Again, no pads on, hard to tell, but I did see DeMarcus Walker do a little bit. And from what I've heard, DeMarcus Walker has been pretty good this whole camp thus far.
He's a good football player. Yeah.
I can't wait to see him with the pads on tomorrow. Like I said, I hope we're close enough to see some of those one-on-one matchups because I want to see him really putting it to the rookie Darnell Wright. I want to see him going against Braxton Jones. I want to see what he can bring to the table because I wrote about it earlier. It's like, who is he? Is he an ascending player that's his best football yet to come? Because the Bears are his fourth team now in 4 years. Or is he just a guy that's going to be kind of just plugging along and this is who he's going to be every year? And if he's an ascending guy, if he's like an Akeem Hicks back when the Bears made that deal years ago, if he's that guy, and the Bears got a steal here in DeMarcus Walker.
Yeah, I think that today, because the pads weren't on, I don't know, I've said that 10 times. I think I tried to watch the secondary and the wide receivers a little bit more than I usually do. That's not how I watch football games unless I go in like to all 22 tape and want to look at something like that. When I watch football game broadcast, I'm only watching the lines and then oh, this guy has the ball, or oh, this panning to this catch. And so, but like it's not fun for me to watch the lines with no pads on.
Yeah.
And so tomorrow, I would imagine that the two of us will just be staring at the lines all day. So we'll have a very different show tomorrow.
Speaking of Lions, Chris asked how the O-line coach looked. Chris Morgan, is he hands-on with the guys? Like I talked about earlier, where we were sitting in the bleachers, they were on the far corner. So, I mean, I took a picture of it. So It's on my Twitter somewhere. If you can even see who's who in that picture, that kind of gives you an idea of how little we were able to see with the actual O-line. But But yeah, I mean, again, tomorrow, man, I hope we're close enough to see it because I like watching him last year. He was pretty fired up with the guys and he did his thing. And question about the practice intensity. I didn't really see too much of that. I mean, it was quick. It was intense. I mentioned one thing I saw in one of the early stuff is I never saw this. Like I was saying, it could have been something they've always done, that teams always do, but they're running a defensive back drill where they're throwing the ball. It was like kind of a tip drill with a dummy in the middle of the field, and the players would all go through it, and then instead of flipping it, the coaches ran to the other side. The coaches flipped themselves to kind of just keep things more efficient and tighter. So that's I don't know. I guess imagine that's a Coach Flus thing. Maybe he kind of brought that with him from wherever he was before. But I don't remember even seeing that last year at camp.
Well, I don't remember seeing that dummy last year. So
Yeah,
there,
the dummy
so
with
it's like,
like arms.
yeah,
Yeah,
it looked like
yeah.
like one of those like blow up things in front of like a gas station or a
Yes,
car
this guy.
wash, I guess I should,
Yeah.
and it's like blowing all over. So it's this like big dummy, and then it's got like had like multiple spokes off of it, and the coaches were kind of throwing at it, and like some of them would just go through it, some of them would like tip it off, some of them would like hit it dead center and like fall, and these DBs like all want the ball to come to them, so if it hit dead center, they'd ask for another ball to be thrown at them because they want the rep. But I'd never even seen a dummy like that before. I thought it was pretty interesting. But
And
again, I spent my whole life in
in the
football on the
trenches.
shit
Yeah.
on the sleds, and not with tip drills, but I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's all part of the trying to keep as much uh contact to a minimum. It was kind of the same thing with some of the tackling drills. It was all where the coach kind of drag a dummy on the ground, and then the guy would come and make his reading and make the tackle. It's just all about keeping the player safe, and that was an interesting drill there too. Let's see, we got a couple more questions here. One question: offense, defense, teams that really stood out other than the guillotine, of course. I think it's got to be the undrafted safety we talked about earlier.
Mhm.
Trayan, what's his first name?
I don't know.
Braylon Trayan. I'm gonna have to go find and Google how to pronounce that now because
Yeah.
he's gonna be the guy everyone wants to know about tomorrow. So Trayan's got to be the player of the day.
I thought, I mean, as much maligned as Claypool was in the offseason or has been in the offseason, I think that there is a legitimately decent chance that Chase Claypool has a nice year in Chicago, and that a lot of people are going to be like, oh, okay, and it was nice to see him get a few catches today, and I would say that was the player on offense that kind of stuck out to me. I was happy to see.
It's a good one. With the emergence of Terrell Smith from CJ Williams here, with the emergence of Terrell Smith, is JJ's job in jeopardy? Is a risk to be traded? JB?
No, I mean, if anything, it's you need Jalen Johnson. You need that established veteran presence. If you trade him, I don't know who you think you're going to start and who's going to back those guys up, because you're not going to have two rookie corners starting on the outside. But I think that it makes me feel more confident that he's going to get extended.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. I feel like he's the next guy. I think people are getting a little bit too caught up in like, why are you giving Cole Kmet that contract when you should be giving an extension to Darnell Mooney or Jalen Johnson? And to me, the these things don't necessarily need to happen in any sort of linear fashion, and
Yeah.
you have enough money to extend all three guys. And I think that the Cole Kmet contract was probably the easiest to get done in the shortest amount of time, because the comps made the most sense, and he probably was somewhat motivated to get it done, and local kid and all that kind of stuff. So I think that they got the first one done that they could get done, and now it's a matter of trying to get these other two. That Darnell Mooney being the other one, but you have to wait and see if Darnell Mooney looks like Darnell Mooney. Whereas Jalen Johnson, to me, it makes the most sense that you're going to get him the paper next.
Agreed. 100%. No need to rehash that. We'll take two more here. I can't believe I'm going to put this on the screen, but how does Peterman look? I actually think he's serviceable. Is Chris doing a bid here? What is she doing here to us? I will say this for all the Nathan Peterman fans, our partners at 500level.com, man, they have got a slew of Peterman shirts available. I don't know why, but if you want to get them, use our promo code Gridiron20 for 20% off. And you too can have a Nathan Peterman apparel.
We were talking about it. I remember seeing these a while back, and I think that somehow surfaced when he was like in Buffalo, so the color still works because it's blue.
Colors work.
But I think they just threw the Chicago Bears tag on it so that when you search Chicago Bears, his come up. I mean, I think they like PJ Walker. PJ Walker was clearly taking the second reps. They had the rookie Badgett.
Tyson Badgett.
He had a few reps, right?
Yeah.
But mostly like it did look like Peterman was taking the 3. I think they like PJ Walker as the backup. I think it gives them a little bit more of a facsimile. I mean, if Justin Fields goes down for any length of time, obviously the Bears season looks very different. But I think they think PJ Walker can give them more of a Justin Fields look than any of the other 2 guys. But I don't see it.
He's fine. I think in the best case scenario, you keep Badgett on the practice squad. You let Peterman kind of walk. And then if there's an injury to Justin Fields or PJ Walker where you need a guy on to come in, I think Peterman, I don't think he'll get signed anywhere in the league. I think he'll kind of be able to come off the street, kind of what the Bears did with Tyler Bray during the Matt Nagy. Just let him kind of go away, bring him back if you had to. So, I think with Walker, like you said, he's not the athlete Justin Fields is. Obviously, no one's a 4.4 speed, physical specimen like that. But he's a 4.7 guy. He's comfortable throwing on the move. He has a much bigger arm than Trevor Siemian did last year, which is something that, of course, the Bears want to take advantage of all those speedsters. So I think the offense does not have to be changed as much going from Fields to Walker. Yeah, you're not going to run the quarterback power with Walker, but you can kind of run some of your bootleg slide stuff with him. So we're going to finish on this last question because it's getting late and I got another show to do in here in about an hour. Robert has asked, how was security? Did our phones get confiscated this year? Any cavity searches? No, we only saw the security guy once kind of walk through. We're kind of way up there on the top. And, I did take some pictures. So I was caught like this a few times waiting for a good shot. So if they would have thought we were videoing, they could have came and got us. But I will say Clay Harbor, the national guy, was a few rows in front of us, and he always shares videos. So if they would have came up and said, "Hey, this is your video," I said, "No, it's this guy." I at least I had my scapegoat all lined up.
Well, I'll tell you what, we are not going to get confused with Clay Harbor because he is a former NFL player and still looks like
he's the Bachelor. He was the Bachelor.
Yeah, fit. Right.
Yeah.
Now we were in the corner with a couple of gentlemen. One, the reason why they have the no video rule, Greg Braggs, and he was in the corner with us. There was a couple other guys that I think may have been sharing video, and so they were right next to us.
They were. I heard them. Yeah, they were doing video.
Yeah, which that was a little worry that we were going to get a repeat because that was the angle we were at, and we were standing right next to them. And I don't know if they're going to recognize us or not, but whatever. But no, we did not run into any trouble, but we did see the gentleman who falsely accused us last year. So, and I saw Larry Mayer. I gave him a death glare. Since we're in a blood feud, I have to remind everybody that because he was the one that pointed us out last year as the culprits.
Erroneously pointed us out. Yeah,
wrongly.
Nice. All right. Well, that's it. That's a wrap. We're good here. You want to sign us off? I'm not sure how to sign us off. I never really.
Oh, you just hit end. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll be back tomorrow.
About 7-ish.
Yeah, probably 7 or 8 or something like that. Yeah.
We'll tweet it out. We'll put it on the website. Obviously, when it's sitting around, whatever time we go live, we'll let everyone know. So we'll see you guys. Thanks for joining us.